Dear viewers, you welcome to this edition of the 6 p.m. primetime newscast on Equinox Television, live from our headquarters in Cameroon's economic capital, Douala. I am Bable Jonathan. In our top stories in this edition of the news, fear and uncertainty continues looming over Galim in the west region of the Republic of Cameroon after armed men launched an attack and killed 2 gendarmes and 2 police officers in that locality in the Bambutus division, and the people are now living in fear of the unknown. And we shall also be bringing to you some reactions of testimonies, some reactions and testimonies of some victims of the explosion that occurred not far away from the Bamenda Commercial Venue ceremonial ground on the 8th of March 2020 during the celebration of the International Women's Day. And we shall also talk about health officials in the Anglophone regions of the country who are stepping up preventive measures against the coronavirus. We begin right away in the chief town of the crisis-hit northwest region of the Republic of Cameroon, where some victims of the explosion that occurred not far from the Bamenda Commercial Venue ceremonial ground during the celebration of the 2020 International Women's Day are expressing worries and concerns over developments within the context of the Anglophone crisis, and of course the impact of the explosion on them is still very alive, and they are still living the pains and the sorrow that the explosion and the Anglophone crisis has brought to their lives. Stella reports.
Sunday, March 8, 2020 might have come and gone, but the events of that day in Bamenda are still on the lips of many. Lives were lost, livelihoods dashed, and goods burned beyond recognition. Victims are still in shock.
All I had is that my business had collapsed, so I'm too worried. Since then, I can't get myself. This morning I went there to see how the condition of the things. Nothing came out there.
I'm so affected so many ways. I lost so many things in church. The catch is involved. I don't know how to express it. I'm still within the shock.
At least 3 non-Cameroonian nationals were directly affected by the fire that broke out shortly after the March 8th explosion.
4 Nigerian shops were affected in that incident of explosion on Sunday. This shop worth more than 100 million francs CFA. And this is what has gone within a twinkling of an eye, which I want to use this opportunity to plead with the authorities, both the Nigerian government and the Cameroon government, to see how they could come to rescue these people. Otherwise, their life will not have a meaning.
Prince Otobong, Nigerian Union President in Bamenda, says the current socio-political crisis has had negative impacts on Nigerians in the restive regions.
In Bamenda here, about 20% of Nigerians have left this country, Bamenda, to either back home or relocated to Douala, Yaoundé, and other places that they may enjoy some level of peace. 3 Nigerians are so far have been killed by the ongoing crisis. The last incident was that of one Uchenna.
While pleading on the federal government and the government of Cameroon to seek better ways of resolving the crisis, he beckons on Nigerians in Bamenda especially to be law-abiding.
I appeal to all Nigerians to be law-abiding and not to risk their life, especially when they are hearing of gunshot here and there. And equally want to seize this opportunity to call upon all Nigerians to stay clear from internal politics of this country.
Many have suffered, many are suffering. The Anglophone crisis has so far had regrettable consequences on the educational, social and economic life of the inhabitants of the Northwest and Southwest regions in particular, and Cameroon in general.
And because of the unstable socio-political and security climate reigning in the Northwest region and of course in the Southwest region of the country as well, the senior divisional officer of the MESAM division has taken some decision with regards to the circulation of vehicles in and out of Bamenda. Henceforth, inter-urban transport vehicles will be escorted into and out of the town of Bamenda and the rest of the MESAM division by forces of law and order. In a press statement, the senior division officer of the MESAM division instructs all inter-urban transport vehicles moving out of Bamenda in the morning and those leaving the town in the evening to converge on the custom junction at 9 a.m. and 6 p.m. respectively, and those entering the town in the morning and in the evening are instructed to assemble at Matazem in the Santa to that is at 6 a.m. and 5 p.m. respectively to be escorted by forces of law and order. And the senior divisional officer of the MESAM division warns that those who will not respect the administrative instructions will be punished according to the rules and regulations enforced. Now to Galim in the west region of the Republic of Cameroon. Fear and uncertainty continues looming over that locality as a result of the recent attack by armed men who killed 2 gendarmes and 2 police officers in that locality. The inhabitants are now living in fear of the unknown. Details in the upcoming report.
The town of Galim in the Bambutos division of the west region of the country is timidly regaining its steam. Population of this town is suppressed by fear since the March 7 attacks, which left 2 female gendarmes, 2 police officers and 4 civilians killed, with several others injured by heavily armed men alleged to be separatist fighters from the neighboring northwest region.
C'est juste aujourd'hui que nous sommes dehors même. On était quand même toujours cachés à la maison par rapport à tout ce qui s'est passé.
Days after the incident, streets were deserted as well as business premises for fear of the unknown. The ambience that usually characterizes the town, educational establishments and public institutions is still in its shell. Some students encountered on their way to school say there are no lessons because most of their classmates have decided to stay home due to fear, hoping to resume school when calm fully returns. After a security meeting convened by the senior divisional officer for Bambutos, grouping security heads, forces of law and order, local vigilante group members and traditional leaders to establish communication strategies in case of a suspicious move, some denizens request joint support of elites to secure lives and properties of inhabitants.
C'est une affaire qui concerne tous. Ce que nous allons faire.
What we will do is to reinforce sensitization for collaboration of all with the administration to avoid further attacks.
De façon à éviter les chocs.
According to the senior divisional officer, the population of Bambutos division, no matter what, will remain hospitable but with vigilance.
Donc vous comprenez qu'il était question que nous voulons les rassurer.
We will sensitize the displaced population to end any plot with separatist fighters in the northwest region, if at all it exists, in order to enhance development of the country, which is one and indivisible.
Il est un et indivisible.
Also, not to sour the peace and tranquility which the division has known and enjoyed years back.
Ne soit écorné par quelque chose que ce soit.
The senior divisional officer demands total collaboration of all with security forces to preserve the peace and serenity of Galim, Bambutos division in the west region.
Still in the west region of the country, inhabitants of some parts of the town, notably the area that was affected by the landslide, and now sending a distress call to the Yaoundé administration. The victims of the landslide have been prohibited from constructing houses, and the local council authorities have hindered the execution of a project initiated by some goodwill Cameroonians in order to bring relief to the victims of the Gwache landslides. Manjigange report.
Gathered at the premises of the Bafoussam 3 Council are all victims of the Ngwashe landslide incident who have come to lay their complaints after works were stopped on the pieces of land that were accorded to them. He has stopped the ongoing construction. We don't know his reasons, because it's been several months that we've been living here and we have been given lands and documents which did not authorize us to construct on the land. The land document has a plan that we can't afford the money to construct the house stipulated.
But dans le cas où il n'y a pas l'argent et que les hommes de bonne volonté viennent nous aider, on met le pied sur ça.
Nous sommes arrivés. I came to the premises of the Bafoussam 3 Council because since we were handed land documents, we've not had the authorization to construct. The construction of several homes at the Ngwashe landslide zone by some good Samaritan have been stopped. The authority of the council say the non-respect of the initial plan given to them is the reason that works have been halted. We can't afford to build a house according to the plan we've been handed. We constructed our homes with sun-dried bricks and not in blocks or modernized zincs. Now they are asking us to build big houses with a budget of about 5 million francs CFA, and we can't afford it.
Nous on se disait qu'on devait nous donner de l'argent pour qu'on construise. Nous on n'a rien. On nous a détruit là avec tous les moyens qu'on avait. Tout était fini.
The victims of the Ngwashe landslide incident are without social amenities and they have continued to suffer in pains. A crisis meeting has been announced to hold in the days ahead at the Bafoussam 3 Council building.
The mayor of the Douala 4 municipality has said he and his collaborators will do everything possible to crush the height of insecurity within that part of Cameroon's political or economic capital, Douala. And they were speaking to the press today after they took the oath of service at the Bonaberi Douala 4 Court of First Instance. And the mayor of that municipality, elected during the municipal and legislative elections 2020, February 2020, Mobimpa Edouard Eve, who spoke to our reporter Mukube. Take a listen.
Is to fight against insecurity. My priority is to help all the people, all the people of Bonaberi to have a safe life.
Health officials in the northwest region of Cameroon are stepping up preventive measures against the coronavirus after 2 cases were confirmed in the Republic of Cameroon. Boost tell us in details on the measures that have been taken this far by health officials in the northwest region.
After the confirmation of 2 coronavirus cases in Yaoundé, the regional hospital in Bamenda has put in place measures in case of any outbreak in the region.
Today, the regional delegation of public health assembled all the key health actors of the region and our key partners who are working with us for us to be able to, first of all, share information, key information about the disease, which, as you all know, is a new disease. So that every one of us should have the same level of understanding. That way we could be able to sensitize the population of the Northwest on the measures that they have to take to be able to prevent being infected by the disease.
The Northwest region shares a long land border with the Federal Republic of Nigeria where, as of today, the World Health Organization has reported 2 cases of the coronavirus. A center to be called the Solidarity Ward with 3 isolation rooms has been put on standby at the regional hospital in Bamenda.
We have 3 isolation rooms. We have a nursing station. We have toilet facilities for staff and toilet facilities for a suspected case. So at this level, there is no staff that is posted here in this unit because the Northwest region has not got any suspected case. If you see, we were doing this simulation today we have taken staffs from the hospital, from various units to come and see, and we have had a plan. If at all there's a suspected case, these are the staffs who are coming to work here. And of course, when the work starts here, it's 24 and 24.
According to statistics from the WHO, there are 118,223 confirmed cases so far in 114 countries. The coronavirus has already claimed the lives of 4,291 persons. No one is spared by the coronavirus. Health experts say proper personal hygiene and thorough cooking of meat can prevent the catching and spreading of the coronavirus.
In the southwest region of Cameroon, the regional delegate of public health has dismissed information circulating on social media that there is coronavirus in the southwest region. And speaking to our correspondent, the Dr. Ebongo Zacchaeus said there is no coronavirus in the southwest region, and he also highlighted preventive measures that have been taken across the region. Derry Jato reports.
Days after the Cameroon Minister of Public Health announced the presence of coronavirus in Cameroon's political capital Yaoundé, the social media announced 2 corona cases in the southwest regional capital of Buea, and Dr. Ebongo Zacchaeus Nanje, Southwest Regional Delegate of Public Health, is on the field, first to show to the world that there is no corona case or cases in his region.
We don't have any case of coronavirus in the southwest. And if we do have one, that case will be treated here. We are constantly simulating within the medical team to make sure that if any...
Secondly, to sensitize the population of the southwest region on the preemptive measures. And thirdly, to reassure them that hospitals like that of Buea has put measures in case a corona case is dictated in the region.
And so with your instructions, we have been able to get an isolation ward with multiple parameter monitors, as you can see them there, such that they can be able to measure all the parameters of the patient at the same time. Oxygen, very available. The suction, since it's a respiratory virus, we have our suctions there present. We even have a nebulizer as well if we need to.
The next stop point was at the Mile 1 Regional Hospital in Limbe. Then, heading our main entry point from Nigeria.
We use our thermoflash. We have a thermoflash. We use our thermoflash to see how is their temperature. Yes, because we know when it is about 37, when it is more than 38 going to 40, we know that there is a problem. We don't get any stomach.
Your surface temperature is 35.3 degrees.
Here, the collaboration of the Ministry of Public Health with the military, custom officers, the business community, and the exchange of notes with neighboring Nigeria against a common enemy, the coronavirus, was applauded by the Southwest Regional Delegate of Public Health.
And now we have realized that the control measures have been stepped up with the efforts from the district medical officer of Limbe and her team.
Elsewhere, Fowan Lawrence, the senior divisional officer from Jan Division, in that same light paid a visit to the Mundeba Health Center.
I thought it wise to come and see how my people are working, especially the doctor with his medical personnel. And I've instructed the doctor to already prepare a small room that in case of any outbreak, those people, those infected can be isolated.
This division shared a long and porous border with Nigeria, reason why sensitization was also of prime significance here.
Some members of parliament have said they no longer want an old person as House Speaker, thus expressing their disapproval of any possible candidacy of the current President of the National Assembly, Honorable Kavayege Jibril, who has been there for several years. They were speaking to Equinox Television ahead of the election of bureau members. For me, Armstrong Standard report.
With an outgoing bureau dominated by very old persons, some of whom got re-elected last February 9, many Cameroonians can't wait to know what the constitution of a new bureau at Cameroon's lower house of parliament will be. Constitutionally, the powers to vote will decide if the new bureau will incorporate new and fresh minds or remain dominated by the old, lies in the hands of members of parliament, some of whom told us what a bureau they would love to see at the National Assembly.
Au fond de moi, je souhaite que cette place aujourd'hui revienne à quelqu'un qui a moins de 40 ans.
Deep in my heart, I want somebody less than 40 years to be House Speaker. I know the position is highly political, and I'm also aware of the fact that the CPDM is in the majority. But within the CPDM party, there are people of less than 40 years and even less than 30. It would be good for the president of the CPDM political party to endorse a young person, even within the CPDM party, to give a new dawn at the National Assembly, especially for the youth. A way sharply different from that of members of parliament of the ruling Cameroon People's Democratic Movement, who are apparently ready to vote anyone recommended by party hierarchy, irrespective of age and duration, at the Ngouaikele Glass House.
Écoutez, en tant que député nouvellement élu,
listen, as newly elected members of parliament, we would not like to concentrate on issues relating to the bureau of the house. We will submit ourselves to the rules and regulations of the party.
Aux règles et règlements de notre parti.
While awaiting the moment, members of parliament have been grouped into commissions charged to cross-check the compatibility of each and every house member.
Well, for the verification process, first of all, it was about to vote an office. So we had to vote a president, a vice president, and the secretaries. So I was a secretary, and I had that charge of reading the different document, and we proceeded on verification. It was actually okay because everybody was about correct, yeah. So it went fast.
Members of parliament of the opposition say they successfully enforced equality during the process to choose commission members.
The birth certificate remains a rare commodity, so to speak, in the far north region of the Republic of Cameroon, and experts have explained or have attributed the fact that many parents have not acquired birth certificates for their children, hundreds of thousands of them, on ignorance and negligence. Immaculate Fogwe reports that Plan Cameroon recently handed over 400 birth certificates to some children in the far north region.
Hundreds of thousands of children in the far north region of Cameroon do not have birth certificates. Statistics from the National Civil Status Registration Office, BRUNEC, reveals that 400,000 primary school children in the region are without birth certificates. Among the 400,000 certificates are 43,000 primary 6 pupils whose birth and identification information have not been documented. The activities of the Boko Haram terrorist group over in the far north region of Cameroon, poverty and migration of persons are some of the reasons why some of these children are regarded as stateless. Plan International, a non-governmental organization, has offered 400 birth certificates to children from different communities that make up the Mayo Chanaga division in the far north region of Cameroon. Some of us were naive about the importance of a birth certificate, but today we are so happy because we have been enlightened. Our children won't face any difficulty while compiling their documents for exams. Officials of the non-governmental organization used the handing over ceremony to sensitize the parents on the importance of owning a birth certificate. Owning a birth certificate gives children the opportunity to have access to their fundamental rights such as education and nationality. In the course of the ceremony that took place at the Damai Palace, the authorities called on beneficiaries to make good use of the document and equally preserve them well.
Thanks, ladies and gentlemen, for staying with us. We're now going to talk about the efforts of the National Anti-Cyber Crime Institution, that is the National Agency for Information and Communication Technologies, efforts to step up the quality of education in the Republic of Cameroon with the use of the ICTs. And of course, this is the purpose of the meeting that is taking place here in the economic capital Douala, the 4th edition of the forum on the contribution of startups in the development of the economy. And this edition is focused on technological innovation at the service of education, of course organized and piloted by the National Agency for Information and Communication Technologies. And for greater details, we have an extract of Ngwang Euphonue Landry, the Information and Communication Technologies engineer with the National Agency for Information and Communication Technologies, and of course Felix Fomengia, CEO of Startup for a Startup, that is Cameroon GCE Guide. Take a listen.
Is just the availability of internet, which poses a lot of problems to these startups since their solutions are tech and they use internet, and also the availability of smartphones to those people who are at the hinterlands. Okay, so with that, what they try to do now is try to see to it how they can devise, how they can ameliorate or change their solutions to suit that context. Some of them will develop solutions whereby they could get feedback through SMSs. That now is going to counteract now those who do not have smartphones. This forum is all about bringing startups that are developing educational solutions for the educational institutions. Now what we do is we thought it wise to bring together these startups and institutions of higher learning, of basic education and secondary education, such that these people who have developed the solutions can present these solutions to these institutions, likewise to parents and students, so that they can see to how they could assimilate these solutions into their academic and institutional sectors.
The challenges we face is that we do not have enough capital at the start. We do not have enough money in order to get resources to develop this platform, because we needed a laptop, we needed some funding, and with some of fundings we were able to achieve, we were able to get this equipment that we need. And also we needed to get past questions. We could not get directly to the GC board, so we had to work with several teachers in order to get these past questions, subject syllabus, in which we incorporated in this app, which students can now access offline. And this project is going to facilitate the work of improving quality education, because students today they have difficulty access to examination resources. So this platform is going to serve them in easily finding these resources, which they could only find in libraries in school, but now at home they can find these resources and study with it.
That's the end of the first part of this newscast. Talking Point is up next. Our guest today is an inclusive education expert, a person with visual impairment from Kumbu in the northwest region of the Republic of Cameroon. Chiamba Daniel, you're welcome.
Thank you.
You're coming from Kumbu in the northwest region of the country, one of the places partly hit by the Anglophone crisis, the violence, the destruction of properties and the killings going on in Anglophone Cameroon for close to 3 years today. What's the state of Kumbu today?
After the election, it has been quiet. We have not been hearing any gunshots. Places are quiet, and I think that the situation may end up like that, or maybe it may change later on. But for now, places are quiet.
The gunshots. How are people managing to survive in the midst of the gunshots and the violence going on, the gun battles between separatists and elements of the National Armed Forces in Kumbu?
Many people, once they hear gunshots, the best place to be is their houses. They remain indoors and remain in their houses, and that is what has been helping a lot of people. People hardly move out when there are gunshots.
Have many people left the area because of the gun battles?
Kumbu is virtually empty. Once a bubbling town. If you get to Kumbu at the moment, you will not believe it's just, it doesn't reflect the Kumbu that has been in the past.
The economy of the area,
the
life
economy
in the
surely
area
is just on its knees because people cannot really go out to carry out their activities as usual.
What are the people saying when you talk to some of the people living in Kumbu? What are they saying about the unfolding of the crisis, about the way things are going on, about what government has been doing to bring
Well,
attention?
their greatest cry is that a lasting solution should be sought towards the problem, and that people should come back and live normal lives. That's the cry of many people in Kumbu.
Ngabu is not far from Kumbu, where there was recently horrific incident that led to the death of several people, many people. How is the area now? Do you have some information from Ngabu?
Not at all, not at all. It's, well, it's not near as such. I don't have any information.
All right. Okay, let's talk about inclusive education. Let's talk about inclusive education. You're an expert in inclusive education, a teacher. When we talk about inclusive education in Cameroon today, what exactly are we referring to, first of all?
When we talk about inclusive education, we are talking about creating an enabling environment for children of all classes to have access to education, making educational environment inclusive. That is, where there are supposed to be staircases, we make ramps. Where there are where the route is narrow, we make it wider so that those on wheelchairs can easily access the school. When we also talk about inclusive education, we are referring to a situation where the curriculum is inclusive, where all the subjects are made accessible to learners with disabilities. When you talk about inclusive education, you are also referring to a situation where teachers are trained in a way that they should be able to attend to all classes of children that comes to their class, that they have in their class. It also refers to a situation where a teacher prepares his lesson plan, taking into consideration all learners, those who are kinesthetic learners, those who are visual learners, and those who are auditory learners. He takes into consideration all of this when he's preparing his lesson. And when such a teacher does so, he is doing so inclusively. He's putting into place inclusive education. Right, so inclusive education is all about considering all classes of children in your class.
Okay, you are a person with disability at the level of sight.
Yeah.
What is the situation of inclusive education in Cameroon today? Is education in Cameroon today inclusive?
That is a difficult question, but if I want to put it on the overall, I would say it is not. However, when I go back to the Northwest Province region where I come from...
When you say it is not, what do you mean by it is not?
It is not because most of our educational environments are not accessible. Our teachers are not trained to take care of different kinds of impairments. The curriculum in itself is not accessible. So all these things put together, we can conclude that it is not accessible.
education in Cameroon today is not inclusive.
But I was just about explaining that
people are excluded.
Yeah.
People who have some challenges, some physical challenges, some impairments at different levels, they're kind of excluded from the system.
Surely. Back in Northwest Province region, something has been happening since 2009 through the Cameroon Baptist Convention SEED program, that is Socioeconomic Empowerment of Persons with Disabilities. They have actually worked very hard with 17 pilot schools. And with this program, it gives an opportunity for all students living with disabilities in all the divisions to have a particular school where they can get to at any point in time and be admitted and well taken care of. Teachers in this school have been trained, they have been having some classes, some workshops, and they have been trained in a way that they can handle these students with disabilities. These 17 pilot schools have equally been well equipped to a level where all the most of the materials that are needed to handle students with visual impairment are made available in this school. Besides, we have also a resource center in GBHS Bamenda. And in this resource center, there are materials there which can be borrowed by different other institutions that have children with impairment, and with this resource center is helping a great deal. And I want to think that if what is happening in Northwest region is also happening elsewhere, Cameroon should have been a reference point for inclusive education in Africa.
All right, let's come back to the difficulties that persons with disabilities are facing as far as education is concerned. You are a teacher today. What are some of the obstacles that you had to brave on your way to becoming a teacher today?
In fact, I was the first student with visual impairment to be integrated in GBHS Kumbu. That's far back in 1988. And at the time, in fact, it was the teachers never believed what Braille was all about. And as a result, they even believed that most of my results were fabricated. That's what some of the people at the time believed. But as time went on, they started believing on persons with disabilities. As many came up, they proved that they could live up to expectation.
So there's a problem of the fact that people don't believe that persons with disabilities can do certain things.
Babila, that is why there is need for inclusion. Because if I learn in a special school and get my certificate in a special school, the rest of the people will think, they will stigmatize my certificate. They will feel that this certificate is, I've acquired what I have acquired because it was in a special school and I had nobody to compete with. But when I go to a regular school where other students with disabilities or without disabilities and are attending that same school, in fact, we compete together, we learn together, and they come to understand that the fact that I don't see does not mean that I don't have the intellectual capacity to live up to expectation. So inclusion is the best remedy to all the challenges that persons with disabilities are
So apart
facing.
from stigmatization, what are the other challenges, the other obstacles that are faced by persons with disabilities?
Attitudinal barrier remains one of the greatest problems. And the problem of physical barriers, the problem of,
attitudinal barriers.
Yeah.
What are attitudinal barriers?
The kind of mentality that the society have about persons with disabilities. They feel that there is a particular place where you belong, where you are not supposed to go beyond that. And when you start getting, above that, it is like you are going beyond where you are not supposed to go. Let me quote myself. When I became a teacher, I was a student in GBHS Kumbu. And after my training, I came back there. To some of the teachers, it was like, how? Everybody who comes here every visual impaired person who comes here comes as a student and not as a teacher. How comes you are coming in this capacity? So many of them did not,
doubting your capacity to deliver the lessons to to teach the students and so on.
Yeah, they didn't believe in that.
No, the physical barriers.
In terms of the physical barriers, in fact, most of the environments in most of our schools, they are not accessible. You have staircases everywhere, you have gutters everywhere, in fact, you have, the doors are very small, somebody with a wheelchair can hardly get into the class. And so all these things put together makes it difficult. Besides that, learners with hearing impairment don't have sign language teachers who can help them assist in communicating information across to them. And all this kind of create a barrier for them to get access to education.
Now, how to solve the problem? How to make education inclusive? You were talking earlier about an initiative put in place by the CBC to facilitate learning for persons with disabilities.
Yes, I think that what is being done in Northwest region can be replicated elsewhere or in all the schools in the Northwest region. In fact, it will take the program many steps ahead. And I equally believe that besides what the CBC is doing in Northwest region, the government has a great deal, a lot to do. In fact, policies, the government need to put in place policies that will cause parents or that will cause persons with disability to have access to education. They need to implement even the existing policies. And if they do that, it will help a great deal.
Implementing existing policies and taking measures and actions that will facilitate learning for persons with disabilities. What are some of the actions that if government takes now, it will improve on the situation, the learning situation of persons with disabilities?
If the government decides now that every school should make their environment accessible, that will be one great giant step. Secondly, if they also decide that in all the teachers training colleges in Cameroon, inclusive education should be part of the curriculum, that will greatly help, because even if they make the environment accessible, if they provide the materials and the children get to class and they are not able to, they can't be taught because the teachers have not been trained, it will still be a problem. So the training of teachers inclusively is one giant step that if the government can put in place, it will greatly ameliorate the situation.
What about the cost of some facilities? Some facilities like the Braille that you were talking about, computers that are adapted to persons, to the needs of persons with disabilities who can easily learn through those equipments.
Yeah, your question is a very valid question, because I don't know how it is, what is happening, because the equipment for persons with disabilities are very, very expensive. Let me take, for instance, a Braille, Perkins Braille. A Perkins Braille costs over 500 francs, 500,000. And this alone, is something that is hard to come by. Let's take, for instance, a Braille sheet. A Braille sheet costs over 25 francs. And a packet of it costs over 2,000 francs. And 2,000 francs to other students is money enough to buy their exercise books. But a student with visual impairment will not use this packet of papers for up to a week. And it even depends the kind of class he is involved in. And so as when we put all these things together, we realize that the equipment for persons with disabilities are very, very expensive.
What are some of the specific characters or characteristics of the initiative put in place by the CBC, and how is it helping the persons with disabilities to learn with relative ease?
Okay, like I said earlier, there are 17 pilot schools in the Northwest region. All the schools have been made accessible. That is, where there are staircases, ramps have been put in place, and most of the undulating terrains have been filled and made flat in a way that any student coming with his wheelchair can easily get across into the class. These schools have been provided with basic equipment that persons with disability need. For instance, we have talking computers, we have hand frames, we have other things, even balls, so that students with impairment can get involved in games. Some of these things have been provided in most of the schools.
And there is a campaign that will be coming up on the 18th of March, dubbed We Ring the Bell, and it's a campaign. It's actually an advocacy for education of children with disabilities at all levels.
Yes.
What should we expect during this campaign?
This campaign is aimed at sensitizing the public on the need of on the need to educate children with disabilities. This campaign is also aimed at causing the government to put in place policies that will also encourage the children to get to school. So we are grateful that the Ministry of Social Affairs, Basic Education and Secondary Education are getting involved. That is why they will be the ones leading the launching. And that they will commit themselves, we just hope so, that they will commit themselves to do many other things that will cause children with disabilities to have access to education. I will want to make mention here that currently, out of 10 children with disabilities, only one has access to education. So in every 10, only one has access to education. Where is the remaining 9? So the need to make education accessible for children with disability is highly needed at a point in time.
All right, thanks so much, Chamba Daniel, inclusive education expert, coming to us all the way from Kumbu in the northwest region of the country. Thanks for your time.
Thank you for inviting me.
Thanks, ladies and gentlemen, for staying with us. That's it for today.